All right, going on with Passover. This is part 6. And continuing with our former thought in lesson 5. It says here, this is about that vow at Passover. In Exodus 19:6, tells us, and you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak unto the children of Israel. Moses came and called the elders of people and laid before their faces all these words which Yahuah commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, all that Yahuah has spoken we will do. I think this is what you want to do also at Passover. I think you want to say with your own mouth, with your own of your own volition, as you take that cup, this is what the people did then, and I suspect he wants you to continue to keep all these laws. He wants you to be an obedient bride. He wants you to make yourself ready. And you want to say, all that Yahuah has spoken, I will do. And because people they're stiff-necked, and they find every way around doing these laws. We're supposed to be a kingdom of priests, by the way. Most people don't understand what's at stake here and what's at the end of the game. They think it's wafting off in a Winnebago on the clouds to the rapture bus and, like retirement or something in the clouds. No, it's here. It's a kingdom here on earth, and you're going to be a priest or a judge, and you have to know this whole law and keep this whole law. That's what this is all about. If you don't like this law, you don't like this kind of marriage, and you don't like these holy days, and this program's not for you then. Then keep doing what you're doing. And you'll find lots of excuses. That's why people have a hard time with this. All that Yahuah has spoken, I will do. I'll do this kind of marriage. I will raise my children as this. I will do, I won't do sodomite marriage. I won't do, whatever. I won't, abortion, you name it. Whatever it is, people cross-dressing, women wearing trousers, men wearing dresses. All these abominations, you got to get rid of those. And you got to teach your children not to do those. And that's what this is all about. That's what you're agreeing to at this covenant. This new covenant, he says, I'll write the law in your inward parts. We covered that from Jeremiah 31:31. And that's what's at stake here. And most people are busily changing this law. Or if you're Christian, they believe Moses is a true prophet, but then they add Paul, the false apostle Paul. And when there's a difference between Paul and Moses, who do you think they go with? Paul, the false apostle Paul. And Catholics, they believe Moses was a true prophet and had the true law, but then they add the Pope and the Catechism. And when there's a difference between the Pope and the Catechism and the Mosaic Law, what do you think they go with? Yeah, the Pope. The Pope. Same thing with the Jews. They have Maimonides in the Midrash and the Talmud and the Mishnah. These things that are contradictory to the law, and when they have a difference between the two, what do you think they go with? Yeah, they go with Maimonides and the Midrash and the Talmud, and they go with Seder meals instead of the Passover. And on it goes. No matter what religion you are. The Muslims have their prophet. His name even escapes me. Muhammad. And they go with him instead of Moses. They believe Moses 18 times, and I read the Quran, and it says in there 18 times, Moses, a true prophet, had the true law, and we should keep it. And then when they have differences, they go with their prophet. Well, going on here. In Luke 22:19, he took bread and gave thanks and broke it and gave it him, saying, this is my body which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Do this Passover in remembrance of me. That's what he's doing. They just got done telling him, go kill the Passover. Yeah, do this Passover and the wine and the bread, and do this in remembrance of him, of the Lamb of God. Likewise, this cup after supper, this is the cup of the testament in my blood, which is shed for you. And we just read Psalm 116 that said, I'll take the cup of salvation. That's what he's talking about. This is where you agree to be his bride. This is how you're supposed to betroth the bride. She's supposed to take a cup. If she drinks of it, she agrees to be yours. She agrees to be obedient to you. Well, you're supposed to be agreeing to be obedient to Yahuah. A lot of people have a hard time with that. Going on, 13:9. And it shall be for you a sign upon your hand and a memorial between your eyes, that Yahuwah's law may be in thy mouth. For with a strong hand has Yahuwah brought thee out of Egypt, and you shall therefore keep this ordinance in his season from year to year. So we're supposed to keep this Passover from year to year. Well, the years are still going on. He says forever throughout your generations in another spot we covered. And 3 different times in that section he says forever throughout your generations. Well, forever is forever. Year to year is still going on. And the reason for this is right here in the prior verse. Maybe you missed it. We went over it so fast. 13:9. It's a memorial that Yahuwah's law may be in thy mouth. Now, typically, religious people, any religions, don't have Yahuwah's law, at least not the whole law, in their mouth. Not even Jews that you think are keeping the law. They add to it like crazy. You can't have milk and meat in the same meal and all kinds of nonsense. They have cedar meals instead of this. They have a cut bone lamb shank roast. You're not supposed to break a bone thereof. On and on it goes. So don't think those Jews are following this law. They don't follow a lot of it, and they add a lot to it, and they're following the Midrash, the Mishnah, the Talmud, and the rabbis, and the men of the cloth, just like everybody else. And Yahuwah answers you, we're going to cover this later, according to the iniquity of your heart. So if you really don't turn yourself to keeping this law and start being obedient, you're not going to find the truth. He's going to deceive you. He says, I deceived that prophet. If that prophet be deceived, I deceived that prophet. What Yahuwah says. Watch this. This is coming up. We'll cover it in another session. It's amazing. That's why there's so much of this deception out there. I used to scratch my head about it, but now it's making more sense. This is only for a few people, this program. He's just looking for a few. Matthew 26:19, the disciples did as Yahushua appointed them, and they made ready the Passover. And now when evening was come, he sat down with the 12, not 13. He came and sat down with the 12. Now, the 13th apostle, Paul, is conspicuously missing here, right? Conspicuously. Why didn't he go get Paul? Judas is still there. Paul's kicking around out there somewhere. He's just not following him yet, supposedly. So Paul did not make this covenant. He did not make this blood covenant on the evening of Passover as Yahushua did with his disciples. Instead, he was probably doing it with the Pharisees, the Jews, which do it during the day on Passover. They actually do it on the evening of the first day of unleavened bread. They do it on the wrong day. And that's, if you follow them, that's what you do. If you follow the law, this is what the law tells you. If you follow Yahushua, this is what Yahushua tells you. To do it on the evening of the 14th day of Passover. And the days begin at evening. So that way you have the blood over the doorpost on Passover night, the night he passes over. He doesn't pass over on the first day of unleavened bread. Yeah, so they're off. They'd have already been, if they were back there at the original time doing it their way, they'd have missed the boat, right? The death angel would have come through and killed them because they wouldn't have had any blood on the doorpost. And this deception is being allowed to people that I think they're being answered according to the iniquity of their heart, like he tells you here shortly. Going on. So Paul in Acts 15, and it makes sense that he's not there, because he says here in Acts 15, a certain men came down from Judea, which taught the brethren, saying, except you be circumcised after the manner of Moses, you cannot be saved. For as much as we have heard, this is Acts 15:24, that certain which went out among us have troubled you with words, subverting your souls. Troubled you. He calls it troubling you, to offer you salvation and forgiveness of sins with the way that Yahuwah tells you to do it. He thinks it's troubling. He wants his own way, is what he's telling you. He's bucking the system here. He's bucking Yahuwah and his commands. Subverting your souls. No, saving your souls. You have to be circumcised. Saying you must be circumcised and keep the law, and you must. And how do you get eternal life? Keep the commandments. So this is all true, and Paul's all false here. To whom we gave no such commandment. Yes, he did. He gave plenty of commandments for this. Yeah, read the end of Revelation. John says the same thing too. Those who keep the commandments have the right to the tree of life and may enter in through the gates into the city. Paul's lying here. He's a liar. He's a liar. I almost cussed. Anyway, he's a stinking liar. And the people that make the lie and the people that loveth the lie don't go in. You can read at the end of Revelation. We already read it. Revelation 22. People that loveth and maketh a lie. Well, he's making the lie, and Christians and Catholics love it. They love it. Well, here it goes. Continuing on, he says in 1 Corinthians 7:18, Is any man being called circumcised, let him not become uncircumcised. If any called uncircumcision, let him not be circumcised. Circumcision is not... What? Let him not become uncircumcised. First off, how do you get uncircumcised? You going to put some skin back on there or something? That's asinine. This is lawyerly, asinine, doublespeak. Well, what he's telling you here is he doesn't like circumcision. Is any man called uncircumcised, let him not be circumcised. And that's not what the law says. The law says a stranger has to be circumcised, then you can keep the Passover. If you don't want to be circumcised, well, then don't. Hopefully your daddy did it like he was supposed to and was obedient and did it for you on the 8th day of your life, and which is the best day of life to do it because the K vitamins are at 115% of adult levels, and they level back off. And there's a lot fascinating on that. Anyway, going on with this, you have to be circumcised or you cannot keep the Passover. No uncircumcised person keeps it. And if you don't keep it, you bear your sin and get cut off. So there you have it. Abraham had to do this, circumcise himself and Isaac and his 300 men, and he did all that. So this is the covenant of circumcision, which you still must keep, unless you want to follow the odd man out, the 13th apostle. Now the other 12 went along with this, and so did Yahushua, so did all the prophets and Moses. So there's only one guy you got, you Catholics and Christians and religious people. You got one guy that's on your side. And, well, I guess you can follow him if you want to. He's answering you according to the deceptions, your iniquity. We'll cover it. Circumcision is nothing, and uncircumcision is nothing but the keeping of the commandments. Well, right there, that's circular locution, they call it, because one of the commandments is to be circumcised. So he says circumcision is nothing but the keeping of the commandments, and one of the commandments is to be circumcised? What's he saying here? This makes your head hurt thinking about it. Obviously, he's a liar. He's like a lawyerly doublespeak, talking in circles. Yeah, talking in circles. Don't keep the commandments, keep the commandments. Don't keep the commandments, keep the commandments. Yeah, this is so that everyone finds the answer that they're looking for. They're predisposed to look for. Going on in Exodus 12. When a stranger shall sojourn with you, and will keep the Passover to Yahuah, let all of his males be circumcised, and let him come near and keep it, and he shall be as one that is born in the land. For no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourns with you. Now, Paul just got done saying, these Gentiles don't have to do it. They don't have to do it. They're not, they don't have to do these laws. No, there's one law and one manner. It covers it here, and it covers it in Numbers. You'll find it. Numbers 15, I think it is. Well, there's one law and one manner for everybody. So if you're in the Philippines, it's the same as the guys over here. In fact, I think these Israelites in America and Great Britain and all the rest of it, they're just as far away from their God now as the rest of the world. Used to be at a time when we were closer at keeping these laws. By and large, the general population. Going on here. So there's one law, and the Jews will say there's a Jewish law, and then there's one to the Goyim, the Gentiles also. They're all in agreement that they got special laws for them and special laws for these other people. They'll tell you there's Noahide laws. There's such a line of BS out there, it's amazing. These liars, these lying preachers and lying men of the cloth, the rabbis, the priests, the Catholic priests, the pastors, they're all following their men of the cloth like Paul and teaching these lies. These are just lies. Ezekiel 44:7. In that you have brought into my sanctuary strangers, uncircumcised in the heart and uncircumcised in the flesh. Huh? What? This is opposite to Paul, isn't it? Yeah, Paul even saying in Galatians, if you be circumcised, Christ is of no avail to you. Like it's wicked to be circumcised. What a backward liar. Going on in Ezekiel 44:7. To be in my sanctuary, to pollute it, even my house, and you offer my bread and the fat of the blood. And they have broken my covenant because of all your abominations. And you have not kept the charge of my holy things, but you have set keepers of my charge in the sanctuary for yourselves. Thus saith Yahuah God, no stranger uncircumcised in the